So in the previous section, we looked at how we can use Lewis dot diagrams to think about how an ionic bond can form, representing how many electrons would be transferred, how many electrons the metal would lose, the non-metal would gain. Now we need to look at why do ionic bonds form. So there must be some energy requirement to ionic bonds forming, right? Because the general rule in chemistry and most things, right, we'd like to get to a lower energy configuration. We'd like to get to a lower energy point that's more stable. We don't want to be in a high energy configuration that's costly. We want to be in the lowest energy possible configuration. So why do two atoms come together to form a bond? Right, they must be, in order to form that bond, they must be lower in energy than their individual atoms. They must be lower in energy than their individual ions, in this case, with respect to an ionic bond. So ionically bonded compounds need to be lower in energy and more stable than the individual ions. Right, so all that's saying essentially that energy, right, this needs to be exothermic when two oppositely charged ions come together. Energy needs to be released when an ionic bond is formed. All right, so let's look at each of those steps now in forming an ionic bond. The first step, we need to remove that electron from sodium. That's the ionization energy. And then the next step, we're going to give that electron to chlorine. That's the electron affinity. So we can have the energy for both of those steps. Let's see what that energy does for us. So here's the first step, right? The first step is the ionization energy. I need to remove that outer electron from sodium so I can give that electron to chlorine. Ionization energy, that's an endothermic process. I have to put energy in to remove that electron, right? Think of this as having two magnets. Those magnets are attracted to each other. To pull them apart, you have to put energy in. It's the same with this electron. To remove this electron that's attracted to the nucleus, I have to put energy in. So the first step is endothermic. That takes me uphill to the tune of 495 kilojoules. So I have to put that energy in to remove this electron. Let's take a look at the next step. The next step is my electron affinity. So when I give chlorine that electron that I took from sodium, here's the energy released. I'm going to release 349 kilojoules. So this is exothermic. The electron affinity, that is exothermic. But is it enough? So here's step one. Step one was endothermic, 495 kilojoules. Step two was exothermic, 349 kilojoules. I add those two together, and overall, I'm still an endothermic process. Well, at the start of this session, I said, right, in order for something to form a bond, we need to be lower in energy than the two individual ions. So far, based on our calculations, that's not true. We're still at a higher energy. I'm still endothermic to the tune of 146 kilojoules. Right, so maybe there's something we're missing in this process. If we're still higher in energy, and yet we know sodium chloride forms, right? We've all seen table salt, that's sodium chloride. And we know in order for it to form, it needs to be lower in energy than the individual ions. And just to confirm that, right, we could take a look at the reaction to confirm, does sodium chloride form? I could combine elemental sodium with chlorine, and I would get a very vigorous, very exothermic reaction that would result in the formation of sodium chloride. So indeed, sodium chloride forms, like we already knew, and it's very exothermic. And yet, based on the calculations we've done, we've got an endothermic reaction. So, right, there definitely has to be one more step that we're missing in this calculation. And that last component we're missing is our lattice energy. So we've looked at forming sodium in a vacuum, right? We've looked at going from sodium to sodium plus 1 all by itself. We've looked at taking chlorine, adding an electron, and going to chloride all by itself. In reality, that doesn't happen. In reality, those two reactions happen concurrently, those two reactions happen together, and then in the next step, we get an attraction between the positively charged sodium and the negatively charged chloride. That is my lattice energy. That's the energy released, and that's the energy that I haven't taken into account yet. The energy released by bringing two oppositely charged ions together form an ionic bond. And it's going to be determined, this amount of energy that's released is going to depend on charge of the ion and the radius of the ion. Basically, how far apart are they? And I wouldn't ask you to do this calculation. I put the equation in here so we can just think about how to determine that quantity of lattice energy, how we can think about it. So basically, Q is the charge and D is the distance. So let's just think about mathematically what would happen to this electrostatic attraction between these two oppositely charged ions. As my charge increases, right, as I go from +1 to +2 to +3, as charge increases and I multiply those two together, right, my attraction would get greater. Now, let's say I want to look at the distance, right? Now, let's say the ionic radius gets smaller. So my distance gets smaller. What's going to happen? I move those two ions closer and closer together. Think of two magnets. As those two magnets get closer and closer together, right, my electrostatic attraction is going to increase. So just to reiterate that, right, I wouldn't expect you to calculate this, but you should know as charge changes, what happens to that attraction? As distance changes, what happens to that attraction, right? As charge changes, going back to the two magnets, as the charge changes and increases, right, I would expect my attraction to increase. Or as my distance decreases, as I bring those two magnets closer together, I would also expect my attraction to increase. So those are the two variables that we can use to change lattice energy. We can change the radius, right, by changing the element, the ion that we're using. And we can also change the charge, again, by changing the ion that we're using. Is it +1 or 2 or 3 or 4? So let's just take a look at those trends of lattice energy. So for example, right, lithium, sodium, potassium, fluoride. As I go down the periodic table, right, lithium is the smallest, sodium is bigger, potassium is even bigger. So what happens? My radius, right, those are getting farther and farther apart. What happens to my lattice energy? My lattice energy gets smaller and smaller and smaller as I move those ions farther apart. And the second component with charge, we could compare magnesium chloride to magnesium oxide, right? Magnesium is 2+. In both cases, chloride is -1, oxide is -2. So we get an increase in charge, we get an increase in lattice energy. So those are the two ways we can influence lattice energy. I can influence lattice energy increases with increasing charge, and lattice energy will decrease as the distance between ions increases. Right, that's what we saw here for lithium fluoride, sodium fluoride, potassium fluoride. All three of those have fluoride. So fluoride, the size does not change, but lithium, sodium, potassium, that cation is increasing in radius, and I see a decrease in the lattice energy because I'm moving those two charges farther and farther apart. What about the sodium chloride that we were curious about? Right, sodium chloride has a lattice energy of 788 kilojoules per mole. So that's the energy released, right, by bringing sodium chloride together. That's an exothermic energy. So putting all of those together, here's my first step. I take my sodium, and this corresponds to the ionization energy of sodium. I remove that electron from sodium, forming sodium plus 1. Here's my electron affinity of chlorine. I give that electron to chlorine, forming chloride. That's exothermic. So that brings me down in energy. So here's where we left our last calculation, right? Here's where I started in energy. I'm still above that in energy. And that's because we didn't take into consideration our lattice energy, the energy released when I bring the sodium and the chloride together, right? They're going to help stabilize each other because they're oppositely charged ions. And so that include the lattice energy. Now that's a large exothermic. And now here's my solid sodium chloride, which is, yes, more stable than the sodium and the chlorine that I started with. And so that confirms our exothermic process. In order for that ionic bond to form, we need to end up lower in energy than where we started. And once we include our lattice energy in that calculation, we do indeed end up at a lower energy than where we started.